So what was your first kind of like journey into like paid comic book work? What was your first like paid comic book gig?
When I left SVA, I had a portfolio, but it just fell on deaf ears. And I managed to get my portfolio in front of John Romita Sr. And John was, I didn't know this at the time, but he was the art director over at Marvel. And, I sent him my artwork. He said, "Can you change this, this, and this?" And I was like, that's kind of an odd request. But I was like, yeah, I can change these things. Sent it back in. I just kept bugging him. And he was like, there's a fine line between, asking for work and being a pest.
Yep.
And you're a pest right now. And I didn't hear. And I thought, oh, this is terrible. Like, I went away. I had all these other terrible jobs, like, delivering or trying to sell sports bloopers door to door and
Sports
business.
bloopers?
Oh, absolutely. It was
love
an
it.
awesome job. Yeah, sports bloopers was great. I would go up to, I had a whole spiel. You go up to every business. And you don't bother with houses like homes because everybody's at work. So you go to the offices. So you go to the office, and I would say like, oh, we've got this, makes a great Christmas present, $20. If you have a few friends that you can pool together, I'll give you one for free. And it would work. Like the secretary would just there's these secretaries, I swear to God, in all these offices that they would be like, great. Like they knew the drill. I don't know how it worked, but then they would run off. They would get like 10 of their friends, and then you'd come back like a couple days later, and they'd be like, "Here you go, I got 10 order for 10. Can I get like 2 for free?" And you'd be like, "Let's do it," like. So anyway, so I was doing that for a long time, and finally Marvel called. They said, "We have this job." It was a Romita Raider, which was working under John Romita. And it was art corrections department at Marvel. And so my first real published work is just fixing things like Spider-Man's webs. You'd be surprised the stuff people would draw that was wrong, or censorship issues. Like there was a whole bunch of Conans that they were reprinting, and there was boobies. So I had to go in and I had to put in like gold plate over their breasts, or like cloth or things like that, and do it in a wash and whatnot. So that was fun to do. And you were in the offices, or I was in the offices. I don't know why I switched to second person there, but I was in the offices, and it was a lot of fun. It was great. I mean, Marvel, the offices were amazing to work in. And there was just a real camaraderie between everybody. I mean, some of these people are still my friends.
I love it.
So, and then I started getting freelance. They picked up the phone one day
and they just said, "Okay, we need you." Like,
I was literally. The sports blooper job was killing me slowly because it was 80% rejection easily, like 90% rejection, and then you'd get like 5% sales, and then like. 2% would call the cops. So like, actually, I had a good start. There was one time I was in this one town. It was around Christmas, and they called. I wound up going to the elementary school just to find the office, but the office wasn't like really easily findable, so I had to wander around the school for a little bit. So I think they called the cops or something like that, and the cops pulled me over, and they kept me there for, oh my God, like 5 hours just sitting there, and I didn't have time to do this. I was like, I got to drop the tapes. So, but they didn't arrest me or anything like that, but I was really torqued. And I looked up on the map to find out where the police station was, and I drove right to the police station, went up to desk sergeant, and I said, "I hear you guys are interested in my product." And I plopped it down, and I sold 3 tapes.
Yes.
So I was like...
way to turn lemons, take lemons
Absolutely,
and turn them into lemonade.
But the job was killing me slowly. So what would wind up happening is that I was just like, I would leave and I would just be like nearly in tears. Well, I was literally in tears, like just getting, because the rejection was so intense.
Of course.
So, and then I got a call, and I had to call from a payphone in order to call Marvel back. So I gave him a call and I said, when do you want me to start? And they were like, January 4th. And I was like, I'm there. Like, you got it. And then it was a big fall, though. I was making like $1,500 a week, and then I went down to making, I think it was $125 a week or something like that.
You're talking about less than 10% even.
It was 35 hours during the week because they were like, well, you take a lunch break. So, and then it was, it was minimum wage. Yeah, it was really intense. It was $4.25 an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was getting as much as a ditch digger in Texas. Yeah, so It was intense, but it was great to be there. Like that was the really important thing, because you're in front of everybody. You get to show them your portfolio. You show them what you do.
You build these connections with people.
Absolutely, there's people there that I know to this day. I was just in DC's offices the other day, and there's people I've known for like forever now. So it's just amazing. Like, and then what's really funny is the people who are. Have come into the industry, they're like, I'm terrified of that person. I'm like, Marie, really?
Yeah. You're like, oh, I've known her forever.
Yeah, I've known her forever. Why would you be scared of Marie? So,
I love it.
not singling out Marie, but you know what I mean.
So what was like after that? Like, how did it transition into getting more and more work? Like, what?
Oh yeah, well, so I was there as a rater, and I remember distinctly. I was doing background inks for Keith Williams on some old Ravage 2099s and some Silver Surfer comics and things like that. So I was picking up the skills enough to know. I knew how to ink beforehand, but I was picking up the every day. You'd help do backgrounds. You know, Keith would do the main figure, and I'd do the backgrounds on it, just on a few pages here and there, whatever. Because the thing about comics is it's just like you're like quick. For God's sakes, we're late. And there was an editor, I still remember this day, he came up, he was the one who was in charge of the Marvel Comics Presents book, and those were 8-page stories, and he came up and he goes, do you ink? He's from Australia, and I was like, yeah, I'll ink, yeah. And I had a rate, they established a rate for me, and they established a really terrible pencil rate. They were almost exactly the same amount. It was like $60 for each. Oh. And I had an editor friend that was like, ask for a raise every chance you get. Yeah. So every 6 months I asked for a raise, and it just kept going. And then it stalled out, and it stayed the same for the last like 20 years. But still, you know, like it was just fun to just do the work back then, you know. Course. I still there's reprints of these things that pop up every once in a while, or I got a Doom 2099 reprint. You know, it'd been like 17 years since the book had died out, and you're just like, they're trying to keep the trademarks. Every 17 years, you got to do that to keep the trademark.
Oh, really? I thought it was 75 years, not 75.
No. Well, no,
years.
This is trademark as opposed to copyright. Yeah.
Got it. Different.
So if you're publishing something every 17 years, you got to put something out. That's why, like, suddenly, like, for no apparent reason, you got to put it on the cover, like the title of the person, the character, and like go like, The Return of Starbrand, you know what I mean? Like, so,
and people are like,
yeah, and they get all excited because they're like, oh wow, this would be great, but
they just
of course they just need to keep the trademark in, and then you're just like, whatever happened to that book? I thought it was pretty good. Did you get 6 months out of it? So that's kind of what happens now. Unless you get a really good Starbrand book, you could get a Starbrand book that would be good, right?
Yeah, you could.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I would do a Quasar book in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Quasar would be fun.
Yeah, Quasar would be really fun, right?